Do you really think eating right is just about counting protein? What if I told you bodybuilding diets used to be way simpler, and at the same time, a whole lot more hardcore? The truth is, behind every insane physique, there's a story of evolution, and it all starts with what's on your plate. Forget everything you think you know about dieting. Today, we're diving into why understanding nutrition is just as important as hitting the weights hard. So grab your pre-workout and come with us, because this ride might just change the way you see food, training, and progress. Ever stop to wonder how bodybuilders used to eat before supplements, fitness apps, and digital scales took over? Back in the 1940s to the 1970s, the rule was simple: load up on protein, straight from the butcher and the farm. Big steaks, whole eggs, and full-fat milk were staples. No one was tracking macros. It was all about grit. The priority? Put food on the table and weight on the bar. And did it work? Just look at Reg Park and Steve Reeves. Their physiques said it all. Back then, food was seen as raw fuel. No complicated rules or fancy breakdowns. They knew they needed protein to grow, but they weren't stressing about carb-to-fat ratios. Meals were built on experience and common sense. Eat big, train hard, and rest well. That was the golden combo. These guys didn't worry about perfect meal timing or whether the fats they ate were good or bad. Drinking whole milk before bed and frying eggs for breakfast was just part of the routine. No fear of cholesterol. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger, early in his career, kept it simple and natural. Bodybuilding was more about instinct than science, and it created a lifestyle totally different from what we see today on social media or modern bodybuilding stages. But don't get twisted. Just because it was simple doesn't mean it was easy. Eating steak every day, 6 eggs for breakfast, and downing liters of milk took serious discipline. These guys had lion-sized appetites and understood that muscle was built on consistent eating habits. With barely any supplements around, everything came from real food. Makes you appreciate whole foods a little more, doesn't it? A lot of these bodybuilders didn't even have access to fancy gyms. They trained in garages, basements, or parks with makeshift equipment. Still, they built thick, symmetrical, unforgettable physiques. And the foundation for all that came from strong nutrition. With all the tech and info we have now, maybe we're overcomplicating something that could actually be pretty straightforward. That era also shaped the culture of bodybuilding. Respecting the basics, valuing real food, and putting in manual effort became part of the sport's identity. It's wild to think that, even with all the limitations they faced, these athletes still achieved insane results. Maybe it's a reminder that doing the basics really well can still take you far. For a lot of today's athletes, that old school phase is a major source of inspiration. They look back and realize that the core of bodybuilding hasn't changed all that much. What's evolved is the amount of information available, but the foundation is still training, nutrition, and recovery. So what really makes the difference? The tiny details or the consistency? After that steak and eggs raw phase, came a time when knowledge was passed around gym bros like sacred wisdom. It was what we call the bro science era. Everything was learned through trial and error, watching what worked for the biggest guy in the gym. There weren't any mainstream scientific studies, no Instagram experts. If something worked in the mirror and showed on the scale, that was enough. You've probably heard someone say, "If it worked for him, it'll work for me," right? Yeah, that was the vibe. During that time, certain rules basically became gospel in the gym world. Eat every 3 hours, avoid sugar like the plague, and get a ton of protein. Nobody really knew why it worked, it just did. Most athletes couldn't even explain what a macronutrient was. The rule book was eat chicken, rice, sweet potatoes, and lift heavy. You think some people still follow that on autopilot today? Intuition was a powerful tool. Athletes knew their own bodies and paid attention to the signs. If they were losing weight, they ate more. If they felt weak, they rested. No spreadsheets, no apps, no smartwatches. Just eyeballing meals, using an old-school kitchen scale, and pure willpower. Maybe that's why so many physiques from back then were one of a kind. Everyone had their own formula, even if they didn't know the science behind it. Progress was judged by brute strength. The more weight you could lift, the more respect you earned. The focus was on being a beast in the bench press, squat, and deadlift. Nobody talked about muscle volume, density, or time under tension. Nutrition was a supporting actor, not the main star. But if a guy was jacked, then whatever he was eating must have been working. Even without much science, there was a strong culture of commitment. The Iron Brothers lived to train and eat. Their diet was almost sacred. Some wouldn't even use salt or seasonings, thinking it might mess up their gains. And even with all the myths and misconceptions, the results were wild. Their dedication ran so deep that, even without fully understanding why, many still reached the top. That era also gave rise to a bunch of myths that are still around today, like the fear of eating carbs at night, the idea that you must eat protein right after your workout, or the belief that only chicken and sweet potatoes get you shredded. All of that came from a time when tradition and trial and error ruled the game. Over time, science came along to confirm some of those habits and debunk others. But the truth is, a lot of those beliefs are still echoing through gyms everywhere. Have you ever fallen for any of those old school myths? What's cool is realizing how important that phase was for the growth of the sport. Without it, there might never have been a push to find better answers. It was in that mix of tradition and gut feeling that the desire to truly understand the human body was born. And that's exactly where we're headed next. How the science of macros flipped everything and launched a new era in sports nutrition. This was the turning point. Starting in the 90s and early 2000s, the word macronutrients started gaining traction. Athletes began to understand that protein, carbs, and fats weren't just food, they were strategy. The mindset shifted. If you want to bulk or cut, you have to control not just what you eat, but how much and in what ratio. Ever heard of counting macros? That concept changed the game completely. This new approach brought a level of food awareness older generations never had. Instead of just eating big, lifters started aiming for a calculated calorie surplus to build lean muscle. And when it was time to shred, they followed a precise deficit. No starvation needed. Food stopped being just brute fuel and became a precision tool, kind of like a natural supplement. That's when the famous IFYM method was born, if it fits your macros. The idea was simple. You could eat anything as long as it fit your protein, carb, and fat targets. It gave people freedom, especially those who were burned out from ultra-strict meal plans. Yep, even a burger could be fit if it worked with your numbers. But was that flexibility really the answer for everyone? The macro revolution also brought in apps and digital food scales. Athletes started weighing everything, from rice to peanut butter. Sounds over the top? Maybe. But that level of accuracy let them control their body with insane precision. Tons of lifters reported major gains after they started tracking their macros. Another big win from this model was customization. Diets were no longer one-size-fits-all. They started being tailored based on metabolism, daily routine, age, and even food preferences. The idea that one diet works for everyone got tossed out. What matters now is what works for you within your own numbers. This made diets easier to stick to, with less frustration and better long-term results. Because let's be honest, no one can follow a meal plan they hate forever, right? Of course, the rise of macros had its downsides too. A lot of people started seeing food as just numbers, forgetting the joy of eating. There was this obsessive focus on the scale and being exact, and for some, that led to anxiety. But overall, this shift was a total game changer. It gave athletes full control over bulking or cutting, something previous generations never had. That phase marked the beginning of a true alliance between science and bodybuilding. It wasn't just about raw strength and instinct anymore. Now, there was strategy, planning, and smart nutrition. That's when people really started getting curious about how food affects the body on a deeper level. After understanding macros, bodybuilding dove headfirst into science. The focus turned to not just what to eat, but when to eat. Enter the concept of the anabolic window, the short period after your workout when your body is most primed to absorb nutrients. Eating during that time, especially protein and carbs, became like a golden rule. Nutrition became almost surgical. Athletes started planning meals for before, during, and after training to maximize performance and recovery. Supplements like whey protein, creatine, and BCAAs started taking over shelves and gym bags. They didn't replace real food, but they made getting your nutrients quicker, easier, and more efficient. And once again, personalization was the name of the game. Diets were now adapted to match your metabolic rate, genetics, sleep quality, stress levels, and even what you like to eat. Nutrition got smarter and more effective. Spreadsheets, sports nutritionists, and hormone panels became part of the routine. With science on their side, athletes started to really understand how each nutrient affects the body. Protein became the muscle-building block, carbs, the go-to energy source, and healthy fats, essential for hormone balance. Everything had a purpose, a time, and a proper dose. The eat whatever's available era was over. Now it was all about thinking smart. Scientific nutrition also began shifting focus beyond just aesthetics. It started zooming in on performance, longevity, and metabolic health. Eating wasn't just about bulking or cutting anymore. It was about optimizing the body as a whole. This new mindset brought a wave of food awareness, and a lot of athletes began caring about their quality of life, not just their physique. We've officially entered an era where nutrition is powerful, intelligent, and laser-focused. But what's most fascinating is that it keeps evolving. Today, bodybuilding nutrition isn't just about how you look or perform. Health as a whole is now part of the picture, and with that, new priorities are taking shape. There's a growing emphasis on whole, natural, minimally processed foods, stuff that gives you more nutrients per calorie. The quality of your food matters just as much as the quantity. Have you been paying attention to that in your own diet, or are you still stuck on protein and calorie counts? Nutrient density is now a major buzzword. Hitting your macros with just any food isn't enough. It's about choosing foods loaded with vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants. A chicken breast isn't the same as a hot dog just because they have similar protein amounts. What you eat affects your long-term health, not just your gains. Another hot topic is gut health, specifically your gut microbiome. That's the community of bacteria living in your digestive system. And research shows it plays a role in everything from nutrient absorption to immunity, mood, and even physical performance. Foods like kefir, plain yogurt, kombucha, and prebiotic-rich fiber are now staples in many athletes' diets. On top of that, sustainability has entered the chat. More and more athletes are trying to reduce the environmental impact of what they eat. That doesn't mean going vegetarian or cutting out meat. It means making more mindful choices, wasting less, eating seasonal produce, and supporting local farms. Yes, you can grow and still be responsible. Another modern pillar? Long-term adherence. There's no point in following the perfect diet for 2 weeks if you quit right after. The newer approach to eating is all about flexibility, enjoyment, and real-life practicality. If your diet stresses you out, isolates you socially, or makes you miserable, it's not sustainable. Eating well should be part of your life, not an endless punishment. With this broader perspective, a lot of athletes are rediscovering the joy of eating well in a balanced way, with a focus on quality of life. The old idea that bodybuilding equals suffering is slowly fading. Now it's about balance, mindfulness, and emotional well-being. After all, a strong body should reflect good health on the inside too. Would you agree? These trends show us that the future of sports nutrition is going to be more human, more personalized, and a whole lot smarter. We're moving into a time where performance and health go hand in hand. What used to be pure trial and error is now becoming ultra-personalized nutrition. Thanks to tech, especially AI, genetic testing, and body monitoring gadgets, we'll soon be able to fine-tune diets based on real-time data. Imagine an app that tells you exactly what to eat, when, and how much, based on your sleep, stress, mood, and even hormone levels. That's already starting to happen. Would you use something like that? Genetic testing promises to revolutionize how we understand our bodies. It can reveal food sensitivities, metabolism speed, how well you absorb certain vitamins, and more. That means generic meal plans could become a thing of the past, replaced by diets 100% tailored to you. On top of that, wearables like smartwatches and body sensors will track everything from hydration to glucose, stress, and recovery. This data will be synced with algorithms that suggest instant dietary tweaks. Eating won't just be intuitive anymore. It'll be guided by real-time feedback. Exciting? Or a little scary? But the future isn't just about numbers and tech. There's also growing concern about how we emotionally relate to food. Athletes are learning that balance is just as crucial as discipline. Avoiding extremes like ultra-restrictive diets, orthorexia, an obsession with clean eating, and yo-yo dieting will be key. Nutrition isn't just math, it's also mental health. The idea of holistic health is taking center stage. That means combining performance, aesthetics, and well-being in a sustainable way. A shredded body built on guilt and burnout won't be the gold standard anymore. The new goal is to live well, feel good, and still perform like a beast without giving up your social life, gut health, or self-esteem. And that brings us to the rise of a new kind of athlete, someone more mindful, more informed, and more in tune with their own body. They'll still chase real results, but with balance, self-respect, and tech on their side. Science will keep moving forward, but now it'll be used to empower, not to trap people in a cage of rules and spreadsheets. The future of bodybuilding nutrition is going to be a fusion of science, technology, and self-awareness. And most importantly, it'll be deeply personal. Back in the day, everyone ate the same thing. Now, everyone's got their own blueprint for growth. If you really want long-term results, copying your favorite athlete's meal plan or jumping on the latest trend won't cut it. The right path starts with knowledge. Understanding how bodybuilding nutrition has evolved gives you the tools to make smarter, safer, and more effective choices. Food isn't just a way to change your body. It's a way to take care of yourself with respect and awareness. There's no magic formula. What worked for someone else might not work for you. So study, test, tweak, and learn from your own body. The physique you dream of won't be built overnight. It'll take shape meal by meal, workout by workout, choice by choice. Just remember, what you eat today is shaping the athlete you'll be tomorrow. Now I want to hear from you. What phase of nutrition feels closest to your reality right now? Are you more old school, rocking the chicken and sweet potato grind? Or are you all about the apps, data, and macro tracking? If you like this video, smash that like button to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss new content on training, nutrition, and physical evolution. And if you want to go even further in supporting what we do, consider becoming a channel member. Nutrition and bodybuilding go hand in hand. Once you understand that, you stop going through the motions and start making real progress. Your transformation starts on your plate. So, are you ready to take your physique to the next level?